This is Healthcare Uprising. We are here to shine a light on the innovators implementing positive change in American healthcare and the patient experience stories, good and bad, that can help others navigate the sometimes overwhelmingly complex American healthcare system. Welcome to the Uprising. We are not doctors and we don't play one on TV. If you need medical advice, consult with your physician or a healthcare professional. All right. Hello, health heads. Welcome and thank you for checking into this dose of the Healthcare Uprising. I am your producer in the back, Jeremy Carr, here with your host in the front row, Heather Pierce. So what's on our agenda for today, Heather?
So today we get to speak with Molly Greenwald, not to be confused with Molly Ringwald, if you know, you know. Owner and founder of Long-Term Care, or LTC, with Molly. Her focus is on supporting long-term care facility executive directors and administration with coaching, professional development, obtaining continuing education credits, and consulting for all size facilities and levels of long-term care, and especially with marketing support. Molly was the executive director of a skilled nursing facility, or SNF, for those in the biz, for nearly a decade.
Excuse me.
And she learned the struggles firsthand of running and growing these facilities. Molly took her firsthand experience and expertise, and now she helps others run those same types of facilities. Again, she brings a strong and high level of marketing expertise that these organizations need. And she's an absolute long-term care guru and expert and is here to share her deep insights with us.
Yeah, maybe not the most popular topic of getting old and having to go into assisted living and things like that, but we all have to face it at some point, and she's got a lot of really good resources for people to get through the process that most people are kind of going in blind, so she can kind of shine a light on it, help you see. So
Yep.
looking forward to sharing this one with everybody out there listening. So without further ado, here is Molly from LTC with Molly.
Hi, Molly. Welcome to Healthcare Uprising. We're excited to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Well, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background, your experience, and working in long-term care, and what you do today.
Sure. So, my name is Molly Greenwald, and I started my healthcare marketing journey in a hospital system in Flagstaff, Arizona. I was the physician liaison. My job was introducing new physicians into the community, connecting them with other providers so that they could refer back and forth to each other. It also included rural parts of Arizona and hospital systems, but also we did some things for the public. We did free talks to educate the public. From there, I moved into long-term care, and I was in long-term care, a specific same facility for 9 years. Started in the marketing department, which is really a focus on admissions and getting to know the people at the hospital who are trying to place patients in long-term care facilities. And from there, I became a regional marketing trainer, educator, and then I was talked into being an executive director. So I did that for a little while. And now I'm doing my own thing. I have long-term care with Molly, which is LTC with Molly, and I do education. I am a public speaker, and I do consulting.
Great. So, obviously, Haven Health, we're actually familiar with it because we're here in
Yeah,
Flagstaff.
that's right.
Um, what can you talk in terms of the long-term care facility, or in this case, it's a skilled nursing facility or SNF, right? Because we love
Yeah,
our
Sniff.
acronyms in
That's
in healthcare.
super
Um,
inside. You're insider
oh
calling it.
yeah, yeah. Been in the healthcare industry long enough that I
Yeah,
can speak in acronyms. We could do it all day long. I'll I'll spare everybody the torture of that though. Um,
right.
what do you think is the most important thing to know about long-term care facilities, skilled nursing facilities, and maybe it would help too from your perspective to maybe um, talk a little bit about what a skilled nursing facility is and maybe even the differences between different types of long-term care
Absolutely.
facilities?
Sure. So long-term care facility just embraces all of the components inside of that, which is assisted living, skilled nursing, and long-term care. So the biggest differences in those lie in the medical care provided as well as the costs. So for an assisted living, it's a more residential feel, allowing residents autonomy and independence. Some still even have vehicles they can drive around, but they come back to the facility every evening. The biggest thing that they do there is medication management, making sure people are getting their medications on time every day. They also provide meals. Sometimes they'll bring in outside therapy if needed. Assisted living is usually a private pay model, and it's a little bit cheaper than any of the other models. Sometimes, if you have long-term care insurance, it can be covered. When you go into skilled nursing is for people that are usually in the hospital, have some kind of an acute hospital stay, and then need more care before they go home. So the goal for skilled nursing is to get the person well enough to be safe at home. So it's a short-term stay in the facility, and that includes therapies. We have occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy. Those therapies are included in this stay, and they get those 6 days a week just to get them stronger and safely being able to transfer and do the things that they need to do at home. And that care is covered by Medicare. Any other commercial insurances also usually cover it as well, but Medicare A and B is a big cover of those stays. Medicare A covers what we call like your inpatient stay, and Medicare B covers the physician portion of that care. So that's a big thing to know. A lot of people don't understand what insurances cover. So Medicare or any commercial insurance will cover a skilled nursing stay. So you have to have usually a qualifying stay in an acute facility like a hospital. The biggest thing there is that you usually have a copay after 20 days. So while you do have insurance, there usually is also costs incurred for the patient after 20 days. Long-term care is usually for patients that can no longer care for themselves. They need assistance in their activities of daily living. That could be going to the restroom, eating, definitely medication management, grooming, transferring, even from a bed to a chair, things like that. So if the people that are less independent need some looking after all day, that is for long-term care residents. And Medicaid covers long-term care. Medicaid, you have to qualify for it financially as well as medically. Some people have long-term care insurance, but a lot of people also private pay for long-term care. And because it's so much more care, it is the higher, most expensive portion of any long-term care stay. So that is essentially long-term care broken down into the three segments that most people know about. Um, the biggest changes that these facilities have had to make over the past probably 10 or 15 years is trying to get away from that stigma of nursing home into long-term care facilities and residences where people live. And so they've really made an effort to make them feel very home-like. And they have daily activities. They have people that are running activities, keeping people engaged and really giving them healthy meals and providing gathering places for them to, just coexist and make friends and be together.
And in terms of, and that's good to hear too, right? Because I think for the longest time, and I feel like even just growing up, the idea of going to a nursing home was very
Yeah,
negative, right? It was like
it
this gross
very
kind of
much.
terrible place to end up in, and someone's just
Yeah.
going to drop you off and forget about you. But
Right.
that's
And
changed.
and and we've all had, Girl Scout troops that, we went in and we sang songs or we did these things and you're a little bit weirded out because there's just all these people there and they're in wheelchairs and it's something that you're not comfortable with.
Mhm.
So the turn for skilled nursing and long-term care facilities to really become more residents like has really helped ease that connotation of what nursing homes used to be.
And in terms of the actual like long-term care programs themselves, so I'll reference Altex, right? Arizona Long-Term Care System here in Arizona because we're in Arizona and we're familiar with it.
Yeah.
In terms of those actual programs that, manage, the benefits, the coverages, all the things that a patient might receive in like a Haven Health or another facility, have you seen any big changes with those programs? Like, are they evolving? Do they need to evolve? Like, from
They
your perspective?
definitely they do need to evolve. So
Yeah.
just to clarify, Arizona Long-Term Care Services, which we call Altex, is the Medicaid provider for long-term care, and
Hmm.
that is a medical and a financial qualifying contract that you have to meet in order to get their coverages. There's some really great education out there through some of the elder law firms where you can learn a little bit more about it. But what I have seen is COVID exposed a lot of the challenges that we were having with Arizona long-term care. So some of those challenges included, every resident who is in a facility or has been approved for long-term care at Altex has a case manager. And those case managers are supposed to visit those residents just to make sure that they're being cared for. They're supposed to follow up and just follow their journey, their healthcare journey. And unfortunately, during COVID, when the Navajo Nation was closed, none of those visits were happening for years. And so unfortunately, those people kind of fell through the cracks. And that was a little bit unfortunate, but it was definitely recognized by Altex. And what they discovered was they need to hire a lot more people, especially in those areas, because the people that are there have caseloads that are very unmanageable. They're just overwhelmed with the amount of people that they're in charge of caring for and making sure that they're okay. And so they're hiring more people. They found things like they didn't have enough vehicles out on the Navajo Nation for people to go and do those home check-ins and those check-ins at facilities. So they have been making efforts to get more vehicles so that those things can happen more regularly. But the biggest thing that I think is hiring the right people, having them fully understand what that job is, and really looking out for the best interests of the patient. While some patients really want to stay at home and be with family, out on the Navajo Nation, there's homes that don't have electricity, that don't have running water, and it really isn't safe for them. And that's a really hard decision for families to make. And just being able to support them through that, I think that's the main goal of long-term care.
Yeah, and thank you for calling out that the all text in terms of this conversation is the Medicaid portion. And you had mentioned obviously Medicare, A and B
It's
cover a lot of the benefits for the folks that usually will end up in a skilled nursing facility.
right.
Um, there's another, I think, thing that we could probably talk about too is like the disability piece of this.
Yes.
Right. And so, and I've actually learned a little bit about this from uh, my cousin, Tanya, who's actually going to be doing an interview with us as well,
Awesome.
because she has a lot of experience with skilled nursing facilities, both for her brother, who has some disability, so younger, and then also with her father, older
Okay.
veteran. And so we really started digging into kind of understanding how disability coverage also plays into where maybe somebody might end up or what kind of
Right.
care they may receive through those facilities. So
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many different pathways to, uh, I guess, being in a skilled nursing facility or assisted
Right.
living. Is that a pretty fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you go into a skilled nursing facility specifically, you have to have a qualifying medical stay in a hospital. But for people that need long-term care, like maybe your sister for caring for her father, even if she's his primary caregiver, they do offer things like respite care, which is if she needs a break, she wants to go on vacation, but she can't leave her father at home by himself, or there's nobody to come in and really care for him. She can do a respite stay at the facility for maybe, 6 days, 12 days, whatever the time frame that she needs is. And those are options too for people that are caregivers that are maybe just a little burnt out, that need a moment to just take a breather themselves. But definitely people with disabilities have they come in for skilled needs. Maybe it's IV antibiotics. Maybe it's, they fell and fractured a leg or something and need therapy to walk again. But yeah, there's so many different ways that we get people. We do a lot of work with veterans. We do a lot of work with the VA, people that need placed either long-term care or for skilled care. So yeah, we get people from all over in all different walks of life.
And in terms of, improving patient health, right? And like quality of life in these facilities, obviously you've already touched on recruiting, right? Like having the right staff. Um, do, ever since COVID, do you, from your experience and the work that you do working with, different facilities, are you seeing an improvement there? Is it the quality? Is it still hard? Like, what are some of the issues around that? And then any other things you can speak to that can be improved, or, what can we be doing to essentially help improve that quality of life for the various people that stay in these facilities?
Right. The number one thing that anybody can do is if you have a resident in a facility, go and visit them. It is just unimaginable how many people don't get visitors regularly, but it's so important for them, for their care, for their well-being, for their mental stability to have people come and visit them. So that's kind of on a personal level, but like I jokingly said earlier, we were talking about Girl Scouts coming in, but having those events and having people come in and just support those facilities, it makes a big difference in the lives of the people that live there. So that's a huge thing. And from my experience, the people that work in these facilities are some of the most caring and loving individuals. But just to touch back on recruitment, it's really challenging to recruit people to work in long-term care. They just don't think of it. Nobody graduates school and thinks, oh, I'm going to go work in a skilled nursing facility. Nurses, we need caregivers, we need people in the kitchen, people that will do the laundry, that kind of stuff. So, one of the things that is improving and helping to get people to start paying attention more to long-term care facilities is you'll have programs in high schools that will do certified nursing assistant programs. So those people will come and learn and come into our facilities and work there for their practical, testing. They'll come, take blood pressures, learn how to work in the facility and get exposed to it. But also, a lot of the facilities will train certified nursing assistants as well. So it's a great little career path that they do have, and really home growing some of the people that want to be leaders in the world of long-term care. It makes a big, big difference.
Is there a concept in the industry at all where hiring family members of the residents plays into it?
Not
Has that ever come up that you know of?
We we have seen that. Like I know, for example, some people that got hired to work during COVID because it was the only way they could see their loved ones. I mean, it sounds horrible, but we do have a lot of people that come and visit every day. They'll spend, 3 or 4 hours every day with their dad or their mom that's in the facility. So we don't normally see a lot of that because if they want to be in the facility with their loved one, they want their focus to be on their loved one. And we need somebody that's going to be willing to care for everybody. Not saying that everybody would do that, but I do feel like we need somebody that wants to go in it to make sure that they're really able to dedicate their time to those that need it the most.
Fair enough.
Haven't seen that a lot. I have seen what we do see a lot of is family members that will recruit other family members to work at the facility. Maybe they're a certified nursing assistant or a nurse, and they'll say, oh, my brother does this, and now he's going to work in the kitchen. So we do get a lot of that family interaction sometimes amongst the staff, which is really great.
Gotcha. I've heard the concept from people that it could help the at-home care where people aren't getting paid to take care of somebody if they went to a
Right.
facility with them and got paid to be there and help
I
out
love it.
whoever's
I mean,
there.
I think it could be an amazing idea, an amazing thing. I just haven't seen it personally.
I just wanted to put that in the universe. That's
Yeah, put
that's
it
all.
out there.
That's all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Molly, you provided a really great kind of picture, I think, of, long-term care facilities, skilled nursing, the the role they play in, the ecosystem of healthcare, because not everybody can take care of their loved one in their home.
Right.
And so sometimes these facilities are exactly where they need to be. But and clearly, you've spent quite a bit of time in this space. You know your stuff, no doubt. Can you share a little bit about what you're doing today to help? I believe you're working with executive directors of skilled nursing facilities, or maybe just long-term care facilities in general, and what it is that you do, what your goal is in order to help them improve, I guess, the way that they're run, and really anything you can share
Sure.
about that.
So I kind of break it down into two different sections of what I do. One is I'm a public speaker. I've worked with the Arizona Long-Term Care, I'm sorry, Healthcare Association. I've worked with them for a couple of years, speaking and just talking about culture and talking about leadership and creating a leadership bench within our facilities to really pull people up that want those opportunities to be leaders. So when those positions become available, we have people ready to step into those positions. I also focus on retention because that's a huge thing. Just like hiring is challenging, keeping people there is challenging. We have competing facilities throughout the cities and states. And so it's real easy for people to say, oh, this facility over here is going to offer me $1 more and I'm going to go over there. So we have to create our culture that makes people want to stay where they are and helps give them a path that will show them that we're invested in them. Additionally, what I help facilities do on the consulting side is I help them create a marketing plan. A lot of people, there's so much information out there about the regulations that surround nursing homes. We always have a joke in our facility that we're more highly regulated than nuclear power plants because the regulations are just far and wide. They're everywhere. And so we get really inundated with that and making sure we're crossing every T and dotting every I. But when it comes to marketing, it's kind of an ignored part of what they're doing. And my belief is if we don't tell our story to the public, not just for recruiting, retention, but for the families that are looking for places for their loved ones, then they're not going to know what we're doing and the impact that we're having in the community. So I really believe that creating a marketing plan, putting stuff out there that talks about our facility and helps us build our brand makes a really big difference for the community, and it helps them learn and be educated about what kind of services we provide, just gives them a lot of basic information. I think that's extremely important.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was thinking too, uh, I feel like a lot of the time, most people, and I have to remember, I work in the healthcare industry, right? I have forever, and I know a lot more than the average Jeremy. Um, and so I'm able to seek that information out. I have to remind myself sometimes that the regular person does not know what I know. And
Right.
so, which is, the majority of people. So, and I even here, in Flagstaff, where I think, skilled nursing facilities really shine in terms of getting their brand out there is a lot of the community partnerships and really being very present in, particularly, I think, in smaller communities too, where
Right.
you may not have a whole lot of choices either. So I imagine the
Yeah,
the list is
some
pretty
some
short.
small towns only have one facility.
Mm,
And the truth of it is a lot of people end up in the hospital from some kind of an emergency situation. They fell and broke their hip, something that they weren't planning. It wasn't like they were going in for a planned surgery. And then all of a sudden, them and their families are faced with, oh, you're going to need to go to a skilled nursing facility because it's not safe for you to go home. So all of a sudden, they have to try to figure that world out. And that's not a world that they're familiar with at all. And so that's why I believe it's really important to share our stories so that people can make, qualified decisions when they're looking at nursing homes and they're looking for a place for their loved one to go.
Can
go ahead.
what would you point out as kind of the main factors to specifically look at
I
for
would
choosing a
always
place for somebody?
100%, I would tell them to go to cms.gov, which is Center for Medicare Services.gov. and look at, it's called Nursing Home Compare, and you can put in your zip code, and it gives you all of the star ratings for the facilities in your community within your zip code. And it'll even go, if you put in Flagstaff, Arizona, I'm pretty sure Cottonwood and Camp Verde will come up as well. It's that broad. And it will tell you how they rated on things like quality measures, safety in the facility, inspections in the building, that kind of stuff. And so it gives you a really great deep dive into what's going on in that facility. When the state comes in and does their survey every year, it's about every 15 months, how are they doing? It gives you a good overall picture of the quality of that building. That is the number one thing I tell people, no matter where you live in the country. You can go to cms.gov, put in nursing home compare, put in your zip code, and it'll give you a very good starting point for finding a facility that you feel comfortable with.
Oh, that's a great resource.
There you
Yeah.
go.
The other thing, if you have the time, go and visit the facilities. Just walking in, you get a feel for what the facility is like, walk around, see what's for lunch. Anytime you can do a tour in a facility, that's really helpful as well.
And do they let people just kind of pop
Absolutely.
in like that?
I worked in the facility for 9 years, and we would stop everything and give somebody a tour if they walked in, because we wanted to make sure they understood everything that we had to offer, give them a real feel for what we were doing in the building, show them activities that were happening, just because it really helps people make that decision and it helps them feel more confident in the care that we're going to give. And we want to create that connection with them so that if their loved one does come to us, they know they have somebody that they can talk to and turn to, that maybe isn't like I wasn't involved in the day-to-day actual nursing care, but I was somebody that could become a resource for them if they had any questions.
Cool.
There you go. You get no stage tours, right? This is what
No,
you see
people
is what
just
you
walk
get.
in all the time. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
what you see is what you get.
Well,
So
that builds the confidence. If you're
I
willing
think
to
so
just be,
too.
yeah, come on in, we'll show you around. There's
Yeah,
nothing untoward going on behind the scenes and
no,
whatnot.
absolutely. Just come in. We're going to give you a tour of what's happening in the moment in real time.
No, that's great. That's a good sign. Yeah.
So I want to kind of not switch topics, but kind of switch our focus a little bit. So, there has been a huge growing focus and a lot of, I would say, product development in the caregiving space from like apps and online this and digital this and that. You know, uh, Having more ability to provide healthcare in the home,
Yes.
particularly with elder care, folks with different disabilities and things like that. Now, obviously, there's a need for both, right? Um, but do you see from your experience, are you seeing any maybe, I don't know, uh, changes or a growth maybe in strategic alliances and partnerships between companies or apps, or is there an opportunity there for, I almost see it as like a transition of care, right? Like if somebody's getting healthcare in the home and it's been appropriate, but now they really need a facility. I'm just
Right.
curious if you've seen that. And quite honestly, I've been meeting so many people who are working in this space that it's just kind of this light bulb that keeps going off in my head. So I'm curious to know kind of what you're seeing, or maybe what kind of information is out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. We absolutely have really great relationships with the people that we refer to, because we want to make sure if we're referring somebody to a home health agency, because a lot of times after they're in the hospital, then come to the skilled nursing facility. And then if they're well enough to go home, but maybe still need some rehabilitation, we'll refer them to home health. And home health will go into the home until they're well enough to start going to an outpatient facility for like physical therapy. And so we work a lot with those companies to make sure that we're all on the same page. And we've had referrals go both ways, where we've referred somebody from our facility to a home health agency, but then also the home health agency will go into the home and say, oh my, Mrs. Smith, I'm just using a generic name, Mrs. Smith isn't doing so well. We think she needs to come back to your facility for a little bit longer, and then we'll try this again. So we absolutely create relationships where we communicate, we talk about the patients together, about what we think their needs are, how they're going to get cared for, any challenges to that care. Like I mentioned earlier, maybe out on the Navajo Nation, it's a little more challenging to get any kind of home health. So maybe they stay a little bit longer at our facility, that kind of stuff. But yes, there is a lot of collaboration when it comes to continuity of care for the patients across the board, as well as the hospital. The hospital is also involved in following up on patients, maybe that they see frequently in the emergency department. They're following up to make sure they're getting the care because they want them to, succeed and get better so that they don't come back into that emergency department and they can understand how to care for themselves a little more, I was going to say competently at home.
That makes sense.
Right.
Um,
There is tons of collaboration.
I
I mean,
bet.
I see it all the time.
Yeah. And in terms of the work that you're doing too, I want to make sure we talk about this a little bit today. So you provide some training, um, and you've got some great videos on your website. But let's talk about that a little bit in terms of the value that that provides to the staff or executive directors, and really, why are you doing that? Like,
Well, one
what's
of
your
the,
goal?
yeah, sure. One of the things I provide on my website, it's ltcwithmolly.com, is just some general frequently asked questions. Because I found that I was answering the same questions all the time. A lot of people don't understand things like the difference between Medicaid and Medicare, and then they don't know how to work through that Medicaid system. Unfortunately, if you end up in the hospital and you need to go to a skilled nursing facility and you don't have insurance that covers it, you can apply for Medicaid, but it might take 60 days for you to get approved for Medicaid. So all of that cost for those first 60 days are going to be incurred by you. And then hopefully you'll get approved for Medicaid and you'll get reimbursed, but that's not always the case. So I found that just providing some education for people was really a way for me to give back into this community that I've worked in for so long. I just felt like it was important. I felt like I wanted to make it easy. They're very short videos. I try to put the name of the topic in the video so that people know and they can say, oh, yeah, I do have that question. Oh, how do I do that? Things like how do I pay my bill and how do I understand my bill, that kind of stuff. So my goal was really to just give back and educate because I unfortunately saw a lot of families who were just so distraught in the moment of what was going on with their loved one. And it's, traumatizing for them. They're stressing out about everything and just giving them a place to look at that and digest that in their own time.
So the videos are really more for people like us, right? If I was making a
More for
decision.
people that are trying to figure it out, right? So I
Okay.
do have an education piece that I do for facilities. I work with the like long-term care, like education. They can get continuing credit for education credits. It's continuing education unit, CEUs. They can do that too.
Or
So I also
CE
have,
credits, as we say,
yes,
right, for short.
There you
yes.
go.
That's an industry term,
CP,
Jeremy.
CEUs, whatever you want to call them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do have that as well. And that focuses right now more on the marketing side, more on how to create, marketing, things like you can get education credits for attending different courses. I have customer service type things that they can get credits for. So I have kind of a twofold in that website. But the thing I'm most kind of passionate about is giving out some free information too, because I hate to see families struggling and trying to navigate something that is coming at a really stressful time in their life.
Well, I'm sure it's one of the hardest things you can ever do is putting your parent in the home kind of thing. That, like you
Right.
said, that old stigma is still in people's minds. Even if you find a really
Absolutely.
nice place, it's not a fun experience.
It's a lot of guilt. It's a lot of like, I wish I could care for mom or dad at home, but I have a full-time job. And if something were to happen to them while I was at work, I would feel awful. And I know that the safest thing for them is to go into a facility. And so, just helping guide them through that. We have amazing social workers in all of the facilities that I've worked with that really help support not just the patient in the facility, but also the family.
Hmm. Yeah, my cousin Tanya, who I mentioned, who is going to be doing an interview with us, from really the, the kind of the patient human side of long-term care, what it means to families.
Yeah,
She specifically said social workers, the social workers that she has encountered in all of her various, scenarios,
right.
um, were the star. They were just, you know, the glue,
They're amazing.
you
A
know.
100%. We always tease that they are the glue because
Mhm.
not only they know what's going on medically with the patient in the facility, they know what's going on socially, what's going on in their home lives, what they're going to go
Mhm.
home to if they're a skilled patient. We've had, in the facility, like I said, Haven Health, our director of nursing, her and her family one time went and cleaned somebody's house out. She made her kids go with her and cleaned the house out so that this gentleman can return home because it wasn't safe for him to go home. So you
Mhm.
have these people that are super passionate about caring for people, and those social workers are by far at the top of the list because they are just so invested, and their goal is a safe return home if possible.
Everybody go hug a social worker
I know they
immediately.
deserve it. They
Say thanks.
I'm
give them
sure
a
they could
cup of
use it.
coffee.
Yeah, that's a tough job. I mean, I think
It
social
really
workers, that
is.
takes a very special kind of person to do that kind of work. And yeah, anyway, I know a few. So um yeah, I want to ask, like, the purpose of this, podcast, we talk about innovation in healthcare. And I'd like to end this on some kind of future focused silver lining. Let's create the positivity, and bring things in here at the end to say what can what can we do to make long-term care facilities better? Like, what kind of opportunities are out there for you, for us, as, somebody who might put a family member in the facility,
Right.
the healthcare industry in general. Heck, even, the
Yeah.
plans and the programs that manage the benefits, when we talked about Altex, or, if it's CMS, what can we do to improve these facilities? Because we all know we have an aging population as well. So I feel like this has become a much more prevalent issue as the years go by. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And we're already seeing some amazing innovation with technology. COVID really sparked some creativity in, telemedicine, telehealth, being able to see providers online. I would love to just see more of that. And like we said earlier, those people that are in rural areas that can't get out, if they have a connection via internet, they can have appointments and maybe they don't have to travel as far. So there are some really great innovations happening. What I would love to see is I would love to see healthcare insurances be more trusting in the decisions of the skilled facilities. I know that sometimes they are looking at their bottom line, trying to get patients out, like, oh, it should only take you 2 weeks to get over that hip fracture. Well, some patients might need 3 weeks, and just giving that flexibility to them and really getting them home in a safe manner is the number one priority for us. And sometimes we run into a little conflict there. But what I'm seeing, in terms of innovation, there's a company that I sat next to at a convention. I was at a booth right next to them, and they were called CareFeed, and they have this really amazing communication format tool where you can kind of check in on your patient like you would if you had a child in daycare. They kind of send you little notes about what's going on with your kid, and maybe there's a photo of your kid in an activity. Well, it's the same concept. They can send out newsletters and they can send out photos to the families and really keep them engaged in what's going on with their loved one in the facility, and things like that, and companies like that that are really trying to connect people and keep that connection, even though they aren't maybe in the same town or even in the same state. Those kinds of things I think are going to be really helpful, because we also know that COVID really identified some isolation factors that were happening with our elders and just with people in general. And so any technology that really helps keep us connected, not just in terms of with our medical care, but with our families, and understanding how we can all do better, I think those are going to be the things that are going to change how long-term care facilities work. And I think we're going to see more and more of that.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that company too. I'm gonna have to look into that one.
They're
Yeah.
great. I just
Yeah.
I happened to sit next to him at a convention, and you have a rush of people, and then everybody goes to the education session, and we sat and chit chatted, and just really cool what people are doing, and it's awesome to see people wanting to make connections.
Yeah. Yeah. I could use that. I'm the legal guardian of my adult niece, who's in a group
Right.
home in New Jersey.
Right. She's
And it would be
state
really nice to
away.
know what's going on most of the time. I
Right.
mean, I'm certainly in contact with them quite a bit,
Right.
but it's just over
And
email and it's just
true. And that's, the other number one thing I would say for anybody that has a loved one in facilities is, you have to be their advocate. You have to speak up, and you have to really sometimes be that squeaky wheel, because we pay attention in facilities to those families. We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can, and we don't want your loved one to slip through the cracks. And the more you're coming into the facility or checking in on them, the more we know that you're invested in their care as much as we are. And that's really helpful.
awesome. Well, that's a great note to end on, Jeremy. Any final questions before we wrap things up?
No, I actually, I feel much more well informed about the process. I do appreciate the way you approached, letting people know how to go about finding the right place and the resources that are out there for that. I think that might be the biggest part of this conversation right now. But
Good.
no,
Well,
I gave me some
goals.
thoughts of maybe some other people, some other angles to talk to people about this too. So I'm looking forward to some future episodes that touch on this as well.
Yeah. Say.
Great.
Molly,
Thank
will
you so
you let us know where can we find you online, social media, otherwise, any speaking
much.
opportunities? I know that you mentioned that sometimes
Yeah.
yeah,
I do. So the easiest way is to go to ltcwithmolly.com. I do have a website. It's molly-greenwald.com, but everybody confuses me with Molly Ringwald. And I may run into the same, only people over a certain age, only people over, some young people are like, I have no idea who that is. But so ltcwithmolly.com is the best way to find me and reach me. And then I can direct you to the other site if you want to book me for speaking events or anything else.
excellent.
Cool.
Thank you so much for being with
You're
us today,
welcome.
Molly. I really appreciate everything that you've shared, and I think I thought I knew a lot about long-term care. I learned more today, so I appreciate it greatly. So
Thanks.
thanks
Thanks,
for coming
y'all.
on.
Yep.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Have a
Nice
great
to meet you.
day.
All
Nice to
right,
meet
you
you as well.
too.
Okay, bye.
All right. So there is our interview with Molly Greenwald from LTC with Molly. A very cool conversation. It's just the sort of education we're trying to bring to the podosphere here with the uprising. But what are our main takeaways from this one, Heather?
Well, I think for sure, every single person, I don't care who you are, where you live, what, status you are, etc. You're going to encounter long-term care in some form, fashion at some point in your life, whether it be a loved one or maybe even yourself. And so with that, just educating yourself on long-term care is probably something we should all be doing. It's just something we're all gonna have to deal with. Especially with people living longer and longer, long-term care, disability. It's just becoming a much, much more prevalent thing. I think also too that maybe one of the most important things to point out about this particular episode um, is that it might even be more educational than focused so much on innovation because, the healthcare uprising is about innovation and seeing change in the industry and in the universe for everybody. But you often need to be educated about things before you can start knowing,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
can be innovated or innovated. Innovated? Is that a word? We're making it a
Innovated.
word.
Sure.
Sure.
Innovated works.
New words. But it's, the facilities that care for our loved ones, we we want them to have the guidance and the support and the forward thinking and everything like that. Needed to stay ahead of the game so that they themselves can be progressive and, and innovate on behalf of our loved ones, and maybe, even you and I
Yeah.
someday. So,
Yeah,
um,
there is no innovation without education. Absolutely.
exactly. The more you know.
The more you know.
And also just, her website, with the short video clips that she puts up there that are very like, you know, topic 101 focused all around long-term care. I think, that's exactly the kind of resource that we're trying to shine a light on here. So, great site to go take a look at. We'll make sure that a link to that is in the show notes. And truly, I just think this episode is a great first step in wrapping our heads around how long-term care, disability, somebody having a long-term care type of condition, can affect any one of us. So,
Yeah, like you said, she gives you the 101 on how to figure out, who to talk to, where to go, what to do
yep,
when you're suddenly facing, a long-term care situation for yourself or a loved one.
yep.
So yeah, a great place to start. We are, going to go down some long roads on some of the subjects we cover here on the Uprising. But yeah, I think this was the perfect place to start the long-term care road.
Yep.
Totally.
The 411 on the 101 and the who knows what other number we could throw in there.
There you go. But all right, well, let's wrap it up. If you like what you heard, please remember to hit all those happy little fun buttons, whatever platform you're on. The likes and subscribes and shares, and give a rating and review always helps let us know how we're doing, helps with the algorithms, all that. If you want to join the Uprising officially, we got a Patreon at patreon.com/healthcareuprising. You can get in for as little as $1 a month. Goes up from there with different benefits with merch and perks and access to different chats and things like that. But that'll be kind of our hub of communications, our most central point. But we do also have a bunch of social medias. Why don't you tell them about that?
Yep. So you can find us online at healthcareuprising.com, as well as on all the social media platforms, just about, including LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and the newest one is Blue Sky. Just search Healthcare Uprising Podcast and you'll find us pretty easily. Also, if you have a story to tell, or a new product or a business, or you a founder of a startup, and we can learn from you, just shoot us a question, and we'll answer it at healthcareuprising@gmail.com. So that's it for this dose of Healthcare Uprising. Until next time, keep looking for the good in the world. Sometimes it's where you least expect it.
This has been a Shut Up production.